Hey everyone, hi. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about My Antonia by Willa Cather, a classic that I finally got to read. I'm going to share 4 thoughts with you all. If you're new to my channel, then hi, welcome. My name is Shelly and I really love books and reading, and I like talking about my thoughts on books and reading. For me, that's half the fun. So if you enjoy this video, including my dog barking in the background, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around, and without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. My Antonia by Willa Cather. This was originally published in 1918, and surprisingly, it's a part of a trilogy. I have not read the other books in the trilogy, and this book definitely stands on its own. Now, what brought me to finally picking up this book? Well, my sweet friend Hannah of Hannah's Books gently encouraged me to start this on Willa Cather's 150th birthday back in December of 2023, just a few months ago. And much to my own disappointment, with all of my intent and purpose to try and pick it up on that date, it kind of slipped by. And the book still lingered in my mind as one that I wanted to read and one that I wanted to finally pick up. So as one day, it happened very recently, I stumbled across an article that I've read before, but I like to revisit from time to time. And it is the Library of Congress's 100 Books That Shaped America. And much to my surprise, this was on the list. Now, Cather is a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, but not for My Antonia, which is probably, almost assuredly, her most popular work. So, I have 4 main thoughts for you all on this book, and a recommendation at the end, like who I think this might be for. So, let's get into the thoughts. Thought number 1. This book is mostly about a friendship. The friendship between Jim Burden and Antonia. The story is told through Jim Burden's perspective. He has just moved in with his grandparents in the countryside of Nebraska, and at that same time, a family of immigrants move near them. It's their neighbors, actually. And in that family, there is a young woman about Jim's age named Antonia. And that is essentially the crux, the whole, like, not the plot of the story, but the heart of the story is, in a lot of ways, Antonia's story told by someone who is very fond and has a bit of a crush on her. And we get these tales and thoughts and sort of a rose-colored glasses version of Antonia through Jim Burden, who is growing up himself and can be a little bit immature and is utterly fascinated by Antonia and her family, who is so different from everyone else in their neighborhood. Thought number 2, one of the things that surprised me was that this is about immigrants. I didn't know that. I've owned this book for years, and I had no idea that it was really about an immigrant experience. And actually, that's what got me to pick up the book. So as I mentioned, I was perusing that article, The 100 Books That Shaped America, and there's always a little blurb as to why the librarians who created this article, why they thought that particular book shaped America. And it blurbed, or it mentioned, the immigrant experience. And this book is so much about the immigrant experience and the differences between an American family living in rural Nebraska and a Bohemian family, or that's using Cather's language, living in rural Nebraska, and the differences in the way they work the land and their experiences, and each of how they process their daily lives, and even their approach to their daily lives. And it is so much about that which was so surprising to me because, again, I have owned this book for ages. I feel like I've heard about this book for ages, and I had no idea that that was a huge focus of the book. And it ended up being really fascinating and enlightening, especially since there is this contrast. As I mentioned, it's from Jim Burden's point of view. Jim Burden is an American, and he moves in with his grandparents who have been living in Nebraska for a little while, I believe. And then it's in contrast to this family that just moves to the Nebraskan countryside. And they're new to America, and they're processing what it means to be newly American. And in that way, the book really had this beautiful contrast. And it was just this light, never heavily done, playing off of one another, the two families that were experiencing the same countryside at the same period of time, and the differences in their experience, and sometimes the similarities, but mostly the differences between their experiences. And in that way, it was very beautiful. Speaking of beauty, that brings me to point number 3, another incredible surprise. Willa Cather's nature writing is beautiful. It is beautiful. One of my sweet spots, one of the things that I really, really appreciate is beautiful nature writing. And hers is utterly gorgeous. The way that she describes the plains in Nebraska, from the grand to the minute. Like, she scales up and she scales down, and you just notice these little things, just these little plants and flowers. And then she'll kind of pivot and talk about, the harsh weather and getting through a certain season. And that was so much a part of the book. The atmosphere, the weather, the land was such an integral part of the book, and she did it so well. And to me, that was just one of the most beautiful surprises, especially someone who's inclined to nature writing to begin with. And then finally, my final surprise actually, was the passage of time in this book. This book is little, it's slim, it is not long, less than 200 pages, and it spans years, decades even. And the way Cather thinks about time was probably the thing that meant the most to me, because you see Jim Burden going from having a crush on Antonia and then living his life and carrying Antonia with him, not in a love lost sort of sad kind of way, not that at all, but thinking about Antonia, having fond memories of Antonia, and what that meant to him and what that means to him as he ages. I thought it was beautiful. It touches on themes like nostalgia and memory and friendship through the years with such a delicate hand that it made me it made my chest grow like tight with emotion, because it was so beautifully done. And I was so surprised. Like, I did not, a book this slim and entitled My Antonia, I did not think would span decades. And it does. And it does it so beautifully that it kind of floored me, to be honest. Words are hard to grasp when I'm trying to talk about like just how beautiful that was. And it really brought me back to my own self. Friendships that I've had over the years, friendships that I've had years ago, and the way that I think about them and the way that I carry them. In a lot of ways, that's how she created Jim Burden. She created him to carry this friendship, this person, Antonia, with him. And watching him carry their friendship, carry these memories, was one of the most stunning things in this novel. And I really, really loved that. to wrap everything up, these are my final thoughts. I would recommend My Antonia to those who can really appreciate beautiful nature writing and a quiet novel. You really have to be in the mood for that, quietness. There's not a lot of big, loud, impactful, plotty moments in this book. And so you have to be ready for that. I would also recommend it to those like myself who have an interest in American literature and American literature through the years. I do think that the Library of Congress was right. Who am I to disagree with them? That this is a very impactful novel in the way that it talks about a lot of different things. And to read it, I felt like I added another piece in my own puzzle of learning about American life and American history and literature in America. But also, like, if you're not interested in all of that and you want to read, again, a sort of quiet novel about friendship and the meaning of friendship that spans decades, then I would highly recommend this to you. It was so beautiful and so affecting that I think that it's one that will stick with me for a really, really long time. So yeah, anyways, if you've read My Antonia, let me know. Let me know what you think. I would love to know. And otherwise, just thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and listening to my thoughts about a book. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all